It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And if we get approval of our minutes from January 30th? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're going to move on to public delegations. We have two registered speakers this morning, so I'd first like to invite up Malavan Subramaniam, and hopefully I got... So welcome. Thank you.
Testing. It's okay. Elementary school and high school are tough, so I'm used to people butchering my last name.
I apologize.
It's all good. It's all. I had to cross the stage with people butchering my name. It's no problem. Sorry if I'm going to be reading off a piece of paper. It's midterm season, and my brain is very fried. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Malvan, and I'm a 23-year-old from the township of Langley. I'm also a transit nerd because if you ever see someone with a stopwatch in one hand and a phone in the other while riding the bus, well, that's me measuring the potential savings of transit signal priority. Anyways, I've been commuting in and out of Langley 5-6 days a week for the past 6 years. But getting out of Langley has never been an issue, as it takes on an average of 18 minutes between Langley and Burnaby. That's why I'm here to talk to you today as a response to the planned SkyTrain expansion down Fraser Highway. Let me lay the facts out about Langley. First, the township of Langley is 75% ALR, but you need this in order to meet regional and global demand for food given population growth and the risk climate change will pose on food supply in the future. Second, most of the population, including me, lives in or have recently moved to North Langley, which has exceptional rapid transit with the 555 on Highway 1. It's nonsense to go down 200 Street to Langley City and then board to King George in 20 to 22 minutes, depending on where you board. It's a big waste of time and money on your part. If you really wanted to go to Surrey, there's the peak time 509 in Surrey Central, which should be improved, or you could take the 555 to 156th Street in 7.5 minutes and then transfer to a second bus. Regardless, the 555 will still be the go-to option for many, if not all, as it is a very reliable, faster, and much more convenient option than SkyTrain. Once at low heat, you can go in any direction. Okay, but what about the other neighborhoods in the township that could benefit from a SkyTrain? Yeah, there's this neighborhood called Brookswood in South Langley, but you would essentially need to plow down thousands of mature trees to justify a SkyTrain. And you want to do deforestation during a climate crisis? Yeah, no thank you. As for Langley City, it's tiny in size, and the area in which SkyTrain would terminate is very industrial. But we need that industrial space because if you're not aware, there's prediction that Metro Vancouver is going to run out of industrial space in the 2030s, maybe even earlier. Also, so SkyTrain Langley doesn't make much sense, but how about those Surrey neighborhoods? Yeah, Clayton has a fair number of people, and there's many new homes that have been built recently, but it doesn't justify SkyTrain. As for Fleetwood, I can really only go off 2017 census data, unless the new Surrey government has just gone off the charts from these projections. Fleetwood is the least of Surrey's worries in terms of current population and projected growth. And this makes sense given that there's only townhouse development proposals as you go along the corridor. So these neighborhoods in Surrey don't seem to make much sense either. But that doesn't mean these areas don't deserve rapid transit. They 1,000% do deserve rapid transit. But SkyTrain is overkill. Yeah, I support the previous LRT proposal, and I provide you all with an analysis of it, and it's based on my recent trip to Germany, which is obsessed with surface rail. But my first preference for Fraser Highway is proper bus rapid transit, which entails end-to-end bus lanes and transit signal priority. That median down the middle of Fraser Highway needs to be ripped out and have bus lanes put in. As for transit signal priority, which is non-existent in this region, coupling with a highly predictable intersection crossing of a bus traveling in a dedicated lane can eliminate red lights, which is a huge Achilles heel to bus rapid transit. Furthermore, I live near the Golden Ears Bridge, so I've tried out the new rapid bus in Lowy Highway, and it is so damn good, and it has so much potential to be even better. It's so good because it operates on a highway designated road, just like Fraser Highway, and it serves more people, so why couldn't rapid bus on Fraser Highway work? I mean, yeah, there's the express bus called the 503, which I've tried out on several occasions during peak time, but it is underutilized and has so much potential to be a true rapid transit service. Am I alone in this thinking? Not at all. I got Nathan Bacall to my left, and I had a conversation with you in September. You told me you were very desperate for any form of rapid transit, as you've shown support for the interurban, LRT, SkyTrain. Heck, you even told me that BRT would be more than enough in your lifetime. I don't know if you're willing to admit this in public, but that's what you told me, so I'm... Okay. Unfortunately, he is the councillor of Metro Vancouver municipality, so in order to get votes, you need to show support for SkyTrain. That's how it works here. So to close, I am challenging all of you to show this region what other forms of rapid transit are possible. If you don't, you will continue to exhaust billions and billions of dollars. You may be asking yourself, but the public wants SkyTrain. Well, that's because the only form of rapid transit that was ever advertised in this region was SkyTrain until Rapid Bus late last year. And this advertising went for 35 years because SkyTrain was introduced in 1985. So, of course, all you hear from the public is SkyTrain, SkyTrain, SkyTrain. My hope is that with the recent branding of Rapid Bus, the tide can begin to shift, but you all have a part to play in that. Yeah, public transit in Langley needs to be improved, and I have many more ideas on how that can be done. You can see that on the second page of the handout I gave you, but you cannot fool this millennial with SkyTrain. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and appreciate getting your feedback on that specific project. Also would encourage you to engage in our Transport 2050, because I think there's some larger elements that your conversation is definitely very relevant to. I will move on to our next speaker, Roderick Lewis.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to make this submission. I'm here to speak on a similar topic to the previous speaker, but in the opposite direction. I'm here to advocate for SkyTrain, and in particular a SkyTrain network of lines in the south of Fraser subregion. The essential reason why a network is needed, as I'm 99% sure almost all of you are well aware, economic development. South of the Fraser needs to have an equivalent rapid transit system to the north of Fraser subregion in order to attract investment and to develop the economy. Take Burnaby for an example of how SkyTrain can benefit of a city. Burnaby currently, uniquely amongst Metro Vancouver's member cities, is sitting upon a $1.7 billion surplus in the bank that they can use to build libraries, recreation centers, skating rinks, you name it, whereas almost every other city in the region has to borrow to build such public infrastructure. Why is Burnaby such a lucky city? Because it has a network of SkyTrain lines, the Expo line, the Millennium line, the Evergreen line, and indirectly the Canada line, networking and connected to it. And Burnaby has capitalized on this fact by allowing densification, high-dense developments, commercial and residential, near SkyTrain stations. That's what the south of Fraser, Langley, Surrey, Delta, maybe even as far as White Rock, should be able to rely upon in order to attract investors' interest. In the material that I circulated, or I sent, and I understand has been circulated before you regarding my submissions, it points out that the current funding shortfall for the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain project is about $1.5 billion out of a $3.1 billion estimated total cost. I'm here to urge you, one of you or several, to make a motion and pass a motion today that would direct staff to investigate and report back publicly on the feasibility and potential benefits of having the Surrey to Langley SkyTrain line project delivered as a public-private partnership. Why would this be advantageous? Because typically P3s, as they're often called, will contribute at least 50% of the full total construction costs. So in the case of the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain line project, you're at $1.5 billion, about approximately half of the total project cost. A P3 model could more than likely have the private sector contribute the missing or the shortfall of 1.5 billion. That's the main motion I'm asking you to consider and to make today. Direct staff to investigate and report back publicly on the feasibility and potential benefits of the Surrey to Langley SkyTrain line project being delivered as a P3. Additionally, I'm here to request that at the same time, concurrently, you would direct staff to investigate and report back the feasibility and potential benefits of having the SkyTrain line guideways and tracks in the south of Fraser region in Surrey at the point where they leave King George Highway traveling southward towards Gateway Station, Surrey Central, and the terminus at King George, have those tracks decommissioned and the guideways decommissioned, and replace those tracks by extending the guideway along the side or in the middle of King George Highway to King George Station. Why should staff look into this? What's the benefit? Because the lands that the tracks and guideways currently traverse, south of where the line turns off of King George to Gateway and eventually to King George Station, these are incredibly valuable lands for development. Dense commercial and residential developments could make a fortune for the city and the region, but it's not going to happen if you have SkyTrain tracks running right through there. And in particular, the mall and the outdoor parking lots that the tracks currently traverse near Surrey Central, again, immensely valuable land that developers, I'm sure, would love to build on. Can't do it if you have SkyTrain tracks stupidly running through there. And last but not least, commission staff to create a wall-size map of the south of Fraser region that indicates the routes and the SkyTrain stations of existing planned and future SkyTrain lines. Any questions? Any motion going to get made by any of you guys who want economic development to occur south of the Fraser?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Roderick, for joining us here today. Appreciate your comments. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our public delegation. We're now going to move on to reports from the Finance and Governance Committee. First item is 3.1, which is an update on the intermunicipal business license for ride-hailing, and I understand there's a short presentation from staff on this update.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Jeff Cross, VP of Planning and Policy at TransLink, and with me is Eve Howe, our Manager of Policy, who has been leading this process on the intermunicipal business license for ride-hailing. We last came to you on January 30th, so a number of things have happened since then, and we've been trying to keep you updated, but we want to emphasize a couple of things today. This is just an information report. If you have any questions, we'll take those at the end. So on January 31st, the working group from across Zone 1 agreed on the bylaw that would be proposed for all councils. In the last several weeks since that time, there's been some finalization through the legal review process for the bylaw. There have been some changes in the data requirements vis-a-vis conversations that have progressed with the provincial government on the data that they will be able to share, which lessens the burden to municipalities in this regard, makes it a little bit simpler for us, so that has amended as is. So we are now in a place where municipalities are starting to consider the IMBL bylaw with their councils. We want to emphasize that there are three options basically available to those members. They can adopt as is, they can reject it, or they can join at a later time if they were on the initial list. There is not the opportunity to amend the bylaw through the process because it has to be a common bylaw adopted by all the municipalities that consider it. A different IMBL would basically make that defunct in that regard. So it's really a binary choice in that regard, though we can operate if a council chooses to either reject it now or adopt it in the future. Because of the way that the legislation is drafted, ride-hailing companies can operate within the Zone 1 region on that. So the municipal group, working group, continues to have conversations and advance this and try and stay coordinated, both through the work that Eve and her group has been doing, and Municipal Affairs and Housing and MOTI at the province have been helping to keep this all moving along. You see before you a list of the councils that have indicated, at least through staff, that they intend to bring forward the IMBL to council, and then those who have either basically not indicated or suggested that they're not going to bring one forward at all. And then attached to this is the current council schedule for what we see. So a very rapid consideration by, or activation, I would say, on this topic by all councils that have been participating. So we're really pleased with the progress on that point. I think we'll leave it at that, Chair.
Okay, we'll appreciate the update. I'll open up for any questions or comments relating to the report. Mayor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the update. Just was curious, the comment that talked about that data sharing now would be taken over by the province. And can you just speak a little bit about that? Because we had quite a conversation about the data at previous council.
So on January 31st, the province indicated to the City of Vancouver that they were prepared to create an information sharing agreement to allow direct transmission of the data from the province, because they are collecting it as part of their permit process, to each municipality and public body at the level of detail that was going to be required in the bylaw. So there were some discussions amongst the working group members, and the decision was made that this effectively gets you the same information that you were seeking, but through direct transmission from the province without having to go through the City of Vancouver as an intermediary.
Okay. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, maybe just one clarification, because there have been questions about the longer term data requirements that this body would like to see and the region would like to see. This is really retrospective planning analysis, which is what we are prepared to accept and what we've been asking for in the first stage. We would like to continue to work with the province and with the industry over the coming months and year to understand what finer level, granular, and maybe more real-time data we could be looking at in the future.
Okay, so TransLink, though, will be able to get that data as well as every municipality would be signing on to get their own municipal data?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Thank you very much. And just want to make a little correction on Appendix 1. It says Port Coquitlam will be doing this on March 10th. We did it on Tuesday evening, so we passed first 3 readings, and we'll have adoption on March 10th. Really what I want to say is thank you to not only the staff here, but the staff of the 25 municipalities who got this done in very short order. I wish I could tell you that I had confidence before that we were going to be able to get it done, but it is an impressive piece of work because I'm sure it was not easy with that many players in the room to come to a consensus, but our staff did get the job done, and just want to acknowledge that and extend my appreciation for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, not seeing any further questions. I think this is something that's going to be coming over the next month to all of our councils individually for discussion. But I think the signals definitely are that it does look like the vast majority, if not all, of the Metro Vancouver region is going to be a part of this. And it's even great to see that outside of the Metro Vancouver area, there's also some important partners that have been able to join this as well too. So thank you to all the staff that has kind of helped bring all of the cities together on this work. This is just a report for information, so if I get a motion to receive. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item 3.2, transit service partnership policy. We don't have a staff presentation on this one, but we do have staff available for questions if there's any questions or comments related to the report here. Oh, Councillor Edmondson.
Thank you very much. Just a couple questions. So this partnership, when we get into it or do wherever we do, it's talking about the development in Coquitlam for the BD development. What happens when a private partner comes in for a specific period of time to fund something, but then that ends? Does that become TransLink? Does that become the city? And I guess my always worry on this is the reputational image for all parties involved. I know it was sort of highlighted a little bit in the report, but that's probably one of my biggest concerns in this policy moving forward. So if I haven't answered that, and I got one there.
Good question, Councillor Amundsen. Yes, the board has been working with staff on what this policy may look like, and that was one of the key issues raised around sort of both the certainty of the service going forward in the future as well as the sort of reputational risk. So there are a number of measures that we've identified, as you said, maybe a little bit lightly, but we're diving in more detail to ensure that there are eligibility requirements in place, that there's the certainty that the service will be maintained for a set period of time, or certain performance standards that we may establish, like productivity of the service over time, whereby TransLink may decide to take that on if it would then meet our transit service guidelines, et cetera, but those would all be laid out at the front end. We would not want to enter into partnerships where we don't have a high degree of certainty based on either the financial backing or the reputation of the partner that they would be able to maintain that service, start something that we cannot continue, or we would be left holding the responsibility for that. So that was one of the key risks, and we continue to work on that.
That's good to know. That's because that's when I read the report, and I thank you for the background information from the board on that. The other issue is just, I have a little knowledge of this, is there's two routings that go along, just not the 159, there's a 791 that also goes along that routing there. And part of the discussions we've had with BD is